Welcome to the Real Estate Power Play Podcast, your launch pad for skyrocketing success in real estate investing. I'm your host, Gabe Rodarte, alongside Mark Monroe. We're ready to bring you transformative stories, groundbreaking strategies, and the insider secrets of real estate giants. Get ready to accelerate your investment journey and become a true power player in the world of real estate.
Thank you so much for tuning in to Real Estate Power Play Podcast. And today, what we're going to do is we're going to sit here and we're talking about a foreclosure process that Matt and I have been working on for the last couple of days, trying to stop a property from foreclosure. So if you're listening to us, please like us, comment, and please share. But anyways, Matt, thank you so much for joining us. And Matt, how you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for inviting me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm glad to have you on, and it was a great learning process. Going through this for the weekend for your first trying to stop the foreclosure from a seller that was right there on the edge, and the house was on auction. So you got this deal. What day did you get this deal that came in? Like, was it late last week, correct?
Yes, yeah, it was late last week. I believe it was last Monday. I got it from a friend of mine that's a realtor. Kind of posted in one of the groups that I'm in, and said a lead of his, the owner contacted him and said, I'm getting things in the mail stating foreclosure and the auction date is coming up and I need help. So I immediately reached out to him and said, hey, I'd love to be able to help you. Let's try and work on this together. So I gathered some information and we were able to call the owner of the property. This individual, he has been not making payments for about 8 to 9 months on his property. He stated that when he was making payments to the original mortgage company and then they sold the note to another one. And I think that started to confuse him along with a couple of other items. So what we had was, it was a 4-bedroom, 2-bath house. I think it's like 1,500 square foot. And I believe it was on an acre in Richmond, Virginia. The ARV of the house in top condition was about 310. The payoff loan amount was $136,000. And on top of that, he was in arrears about $10,000 as well. So we reached out to him and told him, we're here to help, and what we want to do is we want to purchase the home from you to stop the foreclosure, so that way you don't become homeless.
So, Matt, let's back up a little bit. Let me slow down a little bit so we go on. So I wanted to ask you a few questions about, so you talked to him, you came, sorry, my camera, I don't know what's going on, but I'm not going to stop it since we're live. My camera's going in and out. I apologize. But anyways, so it came from a realtor. Let's kind of back up a little bit in a realtor. Like, how did you connect with this realtor? How did you start networking with a realtor?
So this realtor was in one of the investment groups I'm in. It's the Burr Invest Academy. So I'm the president of the Richmond City Group chapter of that for Richmond and pretty much all over the state of Virginia. So we have a kind of like a group chat on our phone through another third-party app, and he kind of brought it through there and stated that he had a pre-foreclosure and needed some help with it.
Got it. Okay. So it came from there, and what kind of you just kind of network, and he reached out to you instead of somebody else. Why did he reach out to you instead of another person in your group?
So he put it in the group, was waiting to see if anyone had any experience with it. Knowing this was my first and being you in your mentorship, I immediately reached out to him and told him I'd love to learn some more on what's going on and be able to possibly help him out.
Got it. So that's kind of how that's what you kind of did with your, just kind of learning from the program that you're in and stuff. You kind of learned from that aspect of it. So you started reaching out to people, and what'd you do? Give them your buy box, or what was your criteria? Hey, Gabe, how you doing? So once you talk a little bit, like, how did you come across and start building that relationship, and did you give them your buy box?
So no, I didn't actually give him my buy box. We built the relationship because we're in a small group, in a paid mentorship. So we were able to kind of network back and forth and communicate. Um, and knowing that he's been a realtor and he actually wound up being, living right down the road from me, we were able to kind of to chat it up there for a little bit. But he stated that this lead came from a ad that his real estate group put out individually for each agent, and it just kind of came back to him. Um, so I didn't tell him anything on what I'm looking for buy box wise. He was able to kind of just give me a brief description of the home, what it was, and it met pretty much all the normal criteria of being in it's a great appreciating area in the Metro Richmond, and having a decent amount of bed and bath count, and it looked like it was going to be perfect for a normal buy box for the area, median income, normal living area there.
Okay, cool. And this was your first deal. You guys kind of started working together. So he reached out to you. How did it come into their office? Do you have an idea?
He said that his group put out a Google ad, and that's how he kind of got it first. He reached out to him in July. It came to him as a pre-foreclosure. He reached out to him in July, offered him, I think he said $175,000 for the property. The owner said that's not enough, and kind of blew him off, and then reached out last second, was like, I need some help.
Got it. So it came in July. They offered him a 175. He turned it down, and the seller, sounded like he just procrastinated. And so that was last week. And when was the auction date?
The auction date was yesterday, the 28th at 3:30 p.m.
Got it. Okay, perfect. All right, so it came into you guys, and then you reached out to the seller. Or did he reach out to the seller first? Who reached out to the seller first?
So he reached out to the seller and was trying to gather some information. Was having some communication trouble with the seller. He would answer his phone sometimes he wouldn't, and he wasn't very direct with his answers. So he was actually supposed to meet him to see the property. I believe it was Wednesday, and the owner never got back to him. So my partner then reached back out to me and said, I can't get a hold of him. I guess he's blowing me off. So I immediately I reached out to him, and I told him, well, can I get his number as well? So he's like, sure, yeah, it's worth a shot. So he gave me his number. I gave him a call from a different phone number that he didn't know. And he answered, and I told him, my name is Matt. I'm a local investor in the area. Your property came across my desk stating that you're in pre-foreclosure with an auction date in, I think it was like 5 or 6 days, and that we wanted to help him out. We wanted to purchase the home from him. We wanted to stop the foreclosure. We want to save his credit. We want to be able to give him some cash, and we don't want him to become homeless. So he then sounded very interested.
Okay, nice.
Yeah.
So you had that conversation. So the realtor, he was blowing off the realtor. You called on a different phone number, so they pick up the phone, which that does happen. I highly recommend doing that to people. Like if they're not picking up your phone, download like a Line 2 app or Sideline app. Which app did you download or did you
It
use?
was, I believe it's Second Line is what it's called.
Yep, Second Line. Yeah, and you can
Yep.
get those for free too, or you can pay $10. So it's a great way if a seller's not picking up your phone uh, to be able to reach out. And I highly recommend it. I've done it before to people, and then you get them on the line, and then you kind of bring them back into it. Okay, so um, did he sound desperate, like when you were talking to him, or like what was the tone of his voice?
Immediate. As soon as I reached out to him, it sounded like a sigh of relief for him. That I told him that I was able to help him out and kind of stop foreclosure, we were able to talk about the property. And then he started to talk about all the issues that are going on there at the property and kind of things that are going on in his life, which he was, going through. He was a very distressed owner. So I empathized with him, and I told him how I don't want him to become homeless. That's, priority one. I'm going to stop that. I want to stop that. So that way you can have a place to live and we can work on, getting you out. And from there, we were able to get some more information from him on who the lender was, what that payoff actually was, and find out that he actually had a ex-wife that was also on the property, on the deed as well.
Got it. Okay. So is the ex-wife, how long ago did the ex-wife move out of the property?
I believe it was a year to 2 years.
Got it. Okay. So, you and I were going back and forth, especially on Saturday or late Friday, because we're down to the wire because we knew the bank foreclosure. I mean, the auction date was Monday afternoon. So you jumped on the phone with the seller, and was it the bank as well? Like, tell me a little bit about that conversation because you're trying to stop the foreclosure with the lender, correct? So talk a little bit about that process and what took place during the phone call, and how did you get, because you obviously if you do send a borrower's authorization, it's going to take a couple of days before it gets loaded into the system. So you had to jump on a phone call with the seller and the lending institution. So tell us a little bit about that. What happened, and did you speak to customer service? Which department? Did you speak to a supervisor?
Gotcha. Yep. So once kind of all that, I was getting some of that information, I reached out to you, and you said that I need to reach out to the lender with him and find out all this information. That way we can try and postpone the auction date or stop this foreclosure so far. So I reached out to the owner, and I asked, who is the mortgage company we need to get all this contact information. He immediately was stating that he's tried to call many times. The wait time is too long. He never gets phone calls back. So I took it into my hands and I said, that's fine. Just give me the name of the lending institution. I'll reach out to them, but stand by your phone because I'm going to call you as well. We're going to get on a three-way call and we're going to talk to them and try and figure out some information here. So I found out the name of the funding or the lending institution. I reached out to them. I was able to get them to call back. They did have like an hour-long wait. So I called on, I actually have 3 lines on my cell phone, 2 for 2 different businesses and 1 my personal, and I called on all 3 of them. So that way I wasn't going to miss it no matter what. So I called on all 3, had them do a call back on that. And then I reached back out to the owner and I told him, just stand by. Cause I'm going to call you here shortly when I have them on the phone, because you're going to need to authorize me to be in the conversation. So I got a call back from them, spoke with a representative. I had to bring him back on the phone. He was able to authorize me to speak kind of on his behalf. And we were able to get a few answers of what's going on. So we found out that he was exactly $10,916 in arrears from the property. A payment hasn't been made in 8 to 9 months. The loan actually had a modification on it from the prior mortgage company, which I didn't know about until then.
So let me ask you a question. On that. So was that modification included in that payoff that you said, the balance payoff 136, or was that like another mortgage added to it as well?
They didn't state. They said that was the total payoff.
Okay,
that's what they told me. Yeah.
So it's probably included, but just so anybody listening, you got to make sure when you're dealing with a lender, especially during these COVID things, some of them been included into the payoff, or some of them, what they did is they did a modification. It sounds like it was a modification, so they probably did it. But I've also seen it where it was like a HUD loan that was put against the second lien against the property, which you didn't have to pay it until you sold the property. So just keep that in mind if you're working with foreclosures, and if ask people if they've ever been through a modification, and if they have, make sure you understand it. Was it included in the original mortgage, or was it considered as a second that they put on, like if it was like a HUD type of thing? Because a lot of the government programs, so they're designed a couple different ways. But anyways, I'm sorry to cut you off. So you guys are going back and forth. You got them on the phone, and what did they say? You were, I'm assuming you asked, hey, can we prolong this? Like, what was some of the conversation that you had with them?
Yeah, exactly. I was stating that I want to purchase the property from him. I want to bring it current first, so that way we can stop it from going to auction. And the representatives we spoke to kept saying that the auction date is literally, at that time, it was in 3 days. That was Friday afternoon we were speaking, and it was Monday afternoon was the auction day. So they said to get the exact payoff, they needed to order a, I forget exactly what it was called, but they needed to order something from their another part of their team, which took about 5 business days to get back to them. So they said that's one of the big issues there. So I asked if there's any way we can stop this. So they gave me the information on the company that was in charge of the auction, or the law office.
The one that's handling the foreclosure, right? The attorney that's handling the foreclosure. Okay,
Correct.
all right.
Yeah.
So they gave you the number to them, and what they said, reach out to them to have them postpone it, or what was that? Why did they give you the law office number? I'm curious.
Yeah, they pretty much said there's like nothing that we can do here. It's already in their hands. Unless we could get the exact loan payoff, which they kept stating it takes 5 days to get back, and from there I would be able to bring it back up. Pretty much saying it's impossible. So
So by the way, I just want to cut you off for a second. The lender can stop that, by the way. They're just passing the buck on to somebody else. And this is what happens a lot of times. The lender and the attorneys are always pointing fingers back at each other. But just so you guys know, the lender is the one that tells up the attorney saying, hey, you know what? Let's postpone it. Let's put it on hold, just so you know that. But go ahead. So you got the phone number, and then what did you do? You reached out to the law firm?
I was able to reach out to the law firm, and pretty much got the same kind of answer, the same runaround. Like there's nothing we can do unless you can bring the loan current. And like you just said, they're pointing fingers back at each other. There was no other way to really do anything. And that's where I reached back out to you for assistance on how we could do this, since we had literally hours until it was complete.
Okay. So the next step is to be able to stop it, and this is what you went down through because the lender was just kind of giving you a runaround. The next step is to reach out to a bankruptcy attorney, correct? And the seller was on board with that.
Correct. Yep. Absolutely.
Okay.
So
Talk
yep.
about that a little bit.
Sure. So I reached out to the owner, and I told him, since we only have hours left to do this, the only way to stop the foreclosure and for us to be able to move further is for you to file bankruptcy, and that will stop the auction. So I reached out to you, kind of let you know everything that's going on. We were talking back and forth. I started calling the law office, bankruptcy attorneys in the Richmond area, to see who could do it the fastest and when I could get an appointment for the owner. I was able to find one attorney in Richmond that was able to get the owner in Monday morning. It was a 2-hour process. It cost $1,000. And they said as soon as everything was done, they would make the phone call or anything they needed to do to stop that process.
Got it. Okay. So you got everything all lined up. So that was the game plan going through the weekend, and Monday morning that was the game plan. And then I guess Sunday afternoon or late Sunday, the seller started doing a 180 backflip and started like having second thoughts. Or you talk a little bit about that, like because you structured a deal to help him out to stop the home for foreclosure, which is great. And this is your first time doing it, and which is you're learning a lot on it. And it was great because you're really helping the person out, but he kind of flicked out a little bit, the seller. Tell me a little bit what happened on that.
Yeah. So, knowing that him and his ex-wife were on the deed, I had to reach out to the owner and try and get a hold of his ex-wife. So he was able to find a number for me to reach out to her. So she actually lives in Washington State. So I had to reach out to her. I finally got a hold of her, talked to her on the phone, let her know what was going on and how I was trying to save the property, save her credit since she's still on the deed, and save her ex-husband from being homeless. She immediately agreed that she would sell the property to us, anything to do to help him, because she knew that he was going through a lot of issues, mentally and emotionally. So anything to help him out. So we were able to kind of send the contract out to her, send it back, got her signature. Then we reached out to the owner, the man who was living there, and he kind of started to blow us off. So I called and reached out to him, sent him text messages, and was like, we need to get this under contract first before we can go to bankruptcy, because I offered to pay for his bankruptcy since he didn't have any money or anything. That was going to be all part of the sale, is I was going to pay for the bankruptcy, and of course paying movers to move him and getting him into an apartment and giving him some cash and everything like that. I'm not 100% sure what actually happened. He texted back that he needed to think about things, and I could tell he was under a lot of stress to make that decision, because I don't know if he really fully understood that he was going to be homeless in about 24 to 36 hours, even though I kept stating to him that auction date is set in stone, and the only way to stop that is by signing the contract, selling the property to us, and having me meet you at this attorney's office Monday morning, paying for your bankruptcy, and going from there.
So
Um,
what do you?
yeah.
I want to back up a little bit because you said something that was kind of like a critical thing. Because he was on board, and then all of a sudden something happened and it switched, and he said he had to think about it. Like me personally, and I'm sure you've done this, and I'm sure it came up, but what you need to do, and if you're listening, is when a seller says they need to think about something, that's where you have to pull it out. What are they thinking about? What is the issue? Pull that out, and that's the key to try to get through that next step, is how to solve whatever issue that he's thinking about. But it sounds like he was just kind of dodging you at that point. That's what it sounds like. So go ahead. So you're trying to help him. You're trying to help, the foreclosure showing up on the credit for him and his wife. You offered to pay the bankruptcy to help him out to stop it, and then take it
Mhm.
out of bankruptcy. You offer to give him some money to move, and then you also to give him some money. I think we even talked about paying some rent for like 6 months to a year to help him out to get back on his feet as well. So
Correct.
we proposed all that. You proposed all that to him, and he just kind of just went dark on you, or like tell me a little bit like Sunday night into Monday morning.
So Sunday, I told him that my partner was going to come to the house and have him sign the contract because he was having an issue with his internet. So my partner was able to meet him out at the property, and stated that he was kind of all over the place, and was just very, very stressed. Um, he stated that he thought he could individually take care of all this himself, as in pay for the bankruptcy, file for bankruptcy, and have the cash to pay to bring all that loan current, and to get out of this hole he's in. He didn't have any money. He was waiting for a friend to wire him money, And I that's where it got to the point where it wasn't lining up. It wasn't making any sense on how he thought he could do it and hold everything together. Other than, hearing that he was very, very stressed to the point of having some, mental health issues. And, that's where I was kind of lost, because it felt like he was drowning in the water. And I told him individually, like, you're drowning in the water, and I have my hand out, and I just need you to grab it, and I'll be able to help you. Just grab my hand, and we'll help you. We'll get you money. We'll get you an apartment. We'll get you food. We'll get you moved. Everything you need. And he refused to do it.
Okay. So I just want to back up a little bit because in the future, I know this is your first one, and anybody listening, I just want to kind of say something. Um, in the future, what you'd want to do is lock it up in a contract before you even go down the bankruptcy option to a seller and talking to him about it, because he didn't even know about that stuff until you started educating him on that process. This happened also on another deal, not with you, but another one that we're working on with somebody else, where um, and it was another student, and they're going to take the property over. He was behind on a mortgage, and what happened was it was an elderly couple, and he lost his wife, and he couldn't afford to live there anymore. His payment was like around, I don't remember, it was like $1,300. So he was going to move out west to go with the son. Well, what happened was the JV student, whatever, reached out to the seller, said, "Hey, let's do a modification. Let me do a lot of modification, bring it current." Worked with the bank. An exact same thing happened. Once the new payment plan came in, it was like around 750. Then the seller decided, "Hey, I can stay here. I can afford this." So just keep that in mind if you're going to be doing these other type of creative options and trying to help sellers, and you're putting a lot of time and energy into it. Just make sure you lock it up. And also what I do sometimes is, if the seller decides they want to exit out because of like a modification or bankruptcy, which is fine, I just want to be paid a little bit for the consulting to help them out, because you do want to be paid for your energy, but at the same time, you do want to help people out, and if you can help them in that situation. So, and that will happen as an investor. You're going to get these type of things, but long as you know you can help somebody out of the situation, you're going to be a lot happier too. So just something to kind of learn on that. So obviously that happened, and then you reached out to him Monday, and he just was waiting for the wire, you said, for his friend or something on Monday.
So yeah, I was reaching out to him. I was calling him all Sunday night after he said he needed time to think. I let him. I think I stopped messaging him around 8 p.m. and I told him, we have the appointment, because he stated he called that law office and made an appointment at 10 a.m. So I reached out to him and I said, all right, well, I'll text you in the morning, because we have that appointment then. So I texted him first thing in the morning. I think it was like 6:30, nothing. 7:30. I tried calling and it went right to voicemail. And then I got a phone call from him at around 1:30 in the afternoon. And he stated that he had some issues with his phone. His phone got shut off or something like that. And that he just had a bunch of, excuses on what was going on. And I unfortunately told him, I was like, it's too late. The auction date is in 2 hours.
Yep. So then he was putting the blame on everybody else. You were mentioning.
He was putting the blame on everybody else, and that he stated he wanted to get counsel to go after the mortgage company, because he stated that he didn't get correct notification of non-payment and all those types of things. And I told him, I was like, unfortunately, maybe that's something you can pursue later on. I was like, I'm worried about your well-being. I was trying to purchase this property from you and help you out. But I said, unfortunately, the time's up, and
Okay.
I kept asking him if he had anywhere to go or anything, and he still He still had
Okay.
nothing.
Got it. So it was a great learning experience for you. So what do you think out of the whole process? Like, what was the main thing that really stood out for you of trying to go through this and helping the seller out? What was the main thing that really stood out?
Um, I'm new in real estate. I've only been doing it for a year, and this is, I think, the only time I felt emotional in a good way. Like you and I were talking before, I come from uh, previous experience in the fire service and helping the community and things like that. So being able to help someone in need is like second nature to me. So as soon as I felt that emotional attachment of someone that's in distress and that I can help them out, I took it really personal. So I made sure I reached out constantly and was texting and calling, and he kept stating that he had a bunch of people trying to buy his house, sending him cards, phone calls, things like that, but no one reached out to him and tried to walk him to the finish line like I did. And he said that in his own words, was stating that no one was willing to help me like I did. And
Right.
I wish I could have did more.
And that's really what it is. You got to come across as a counselor, in which we really are. You're just taking your knowledge and really helping these sellers out or helping the homeowner out for whatever situation it may be. So that's what happens a lot of times. I can't tell you how many times, I did one not too long ago up in Orlando area and did it 3 years ago. It was February of COVID, so I don't know how long that's been now. And we finally sold the property a month and a half ago, and the seller, she was just thanking so much because her credit was great. She bounced it up. Her and her son were on it, and her son's credit score was almost 800 now. If they had that foreclosure on there was no way that was going to be there. And he's in the process of buying a home, so it really cut down the time frame. So that's the good thing about it. And then you're going to bring the loan current. Um, that's what one thing about realtors is say, oh, you investors, you guys are like blah blah blah. Like, well, would you, I get you're trying to sell the home, but would you pay to bring that loan current? you know,
Yeah.
so it's a different type of thing. So they get paid to list and try to selling it, but we get paid to try to be creative in solving it. And then the beauty of it is putting an end buyer in it that wants to become a homeowner, and you stay in the middle and create an arbitrage and just make a little bit of money along the way. So it's a win for
Yeah.
everybody on it. So that's kind of, so I'm glad that went well.
Yeah.
So now, you know, you're really focusing on these pre-foreclosures now, since you got a feel for it, and especially with this market, with things starting to shift, and you're going to see a lot more of those. I was at the mortgage bank. I was at a mortgage note convention up in Nashville back in June, and we had the Mortgage Bankers Association. And one of the things she was saying is that a lot of these COVID plans, people did mods, and now they're starting to see them default. And this was in uh, June, so this is what we're going to start seeing is more of these foreclosures happening,
Yeah.
coming through. So you're going to see these. What I also have been seeing, and I mentioned this to you guys in our weekly coaching call,
Mhm.
that a realtor that I know reached out to me, and she's starting to get BPO orders. And a BPO is the broker opinion, property opinion, like what the property is
Mhm.
worth, and that means it's a sign that the property is going to be about ready to go to foreclosure. So that is another great source of finding out which realtor handles those BPOs for the
Yep.
lenders, and try to reach out to the seller and see if you can do something there as well. You got to work something with a realtor. So, Matt, anything else that you have a question or anything else that you kind of want to talk a little bit about that besides that, helping the homeowner out, what else do you think was like, what was one of the most stressful things you think?
Um, I think the most stressful part was not being able to follow through and get to the finish line, and because like I said, it got it's an emotional transaction to be able to assist people that are in such a time of distress like this. Um, so not being able to help this person that doesn't have any other plans, or where to go, or anyone to help them out, and that's kind of a stressful thing, because we got right there to the end and was trying to save them, but couldn't. But it definitely instilled in me that this is definitely the route I want to go. Like we were saying, I want to target pre-foreclosures. I want to be able to help people out that are in times of distress, versus just going after a regular property, and especially using the creative method that you've been teaching me, stating that we can not only pay them cash after bringing loan current, but doing creative things like pay for moving company, pay for an apartment, pay for groceries in the fridge, and assist them along the way of all these things. And that's where it kind of really gets on a personal level, which I really relate to, and I like a lot. So that's the route I'm definitely going to go.
Yeah, that's great. So yeah, I mean, you could have definitely got them there if the seller wanted to be helped a little bit. And that just takes a little bit of learning practice of learning. And it was a good learning practice of, okay, this is what happened. So you kind of learn from it for next time. And like we mentioned, like maybe we had to get somebody, a local friend or family member involved to kind of talk to him a little bit. You did everything you could. But it's just, he obviously was procrastinating and trying to do all these things, and he got to a point. So it's sad, but it is what it is, and this is part of the nature of the game. But then you're gonna be ones out there like, okay, because these guys always wait until the last second. They don't. Some of these guys don't even open the mail up. I mean, I remember going to somebody's house one time, and they pulled out all the bank letters, and not even one was open.
Oh, wow.
So we had to go through to kind of get the numbers and everything, because they try to be in denial, and
Yeah,
and I get it, that type of thing, but.
of course.
But this was a great topic. If anybody has any questions at all, feel free to reach out to me. If you're listening to us on one of your favorite podcasts, please like, share, leave a comment. It would be greatly appreciated. And if you're listening to us on YouTube, please like us there, share, and any social media. So once again, we come live to you on every Tuesday about 5 p.m. So if you have any questions, and then our podcast editing team will take this and go ahead and edit and then put it out there on the podcast platform. So really appreciate it, Matt. I really appreciate you coming on, and thank you so much for being on. Matt, you can just wait at the end here while we close out. Everybody else, thanks so much for listening, and I appreciate it. Was it Zach? All right. Take care, everybody.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thanks, Matt.